Type 2 diabetes in Australia's is Australia's fastest growing chronic disease. It's the focus of a new SBS TV series, Australia's Health Revolution, fronted by Dr. Michael Mosley. He's teaming up with exercise physiologist and proud Gomeroi man Ray Kelly to examine the effects of this deadly disease and potentially the ways we can ward it off. Here's a sneak peek.
We're following courageous Australians battling to overcome this dread disease.
They've already taken my heavy rigid licence off me because of my right eye.
So gangrene just keeps spreading, ankle and then knee and then the limb.
You feel like you're being robbed because your life's been stolen.
Ray Kelly is on the Central Coast in New South Wales. Welcome to RN Drive.
Hey, how you going?
Good. Now, Ray, tell me about the work here. Why does Australia have such a big problem with diabetes?
Oh, look, it's pretty much most countries, to be honest. Anywhere that's got sort of a lot of processed food and industrialised, and like we're sort of, as we're getting older, we're consuming more foods, so it's just bringing it out. It's not obesity related, but it's definitely weight related, depending on your genetics.
Now, in this show, it's kind of like an Australian version of Super Size Me, eating an Aussie diet for 2 weeks. What does that look like to do that?
Oh, to be honest, most people probably might eat takeaway or eat out, a few times a week, and it's sort of just packaged foods and things like that. So most people would look at it and think, oh, no, I wouldn't eat like that. But this is actually the average diet as done by nationwide research. So, it's not sort of gorging yourself on bad foods all the time. It's just eating too much processed food.
Michael Mosley, I believe we have you now. What emerges in those 2 weeks on that diet?
Good morning. Hi. Yeah, good evening, in fact. I'm calling you from England. So what happens over that period is I put on a fair amount of weight. My wife, who was in Australia with me at the time, said I started to snore really, really loudly. I also, my blood pressure and my blood sugar started to shoot up because I'd been using a sort of glucose monitor on my arm, so I could measure what was going on, and I could see that beginning to soar. And I also found that I became increasingly sort of almost reliant on these foods. I was wanting to eat more and more of them, and it had a pretty bad effect on my mood, because we also know that eating a lot of processed food leads to depression and anxiety. So it has a pretty bad effect all round. And I was surprised, I guess, how quickly it all happened. I mean, I think the producers of the series were secretly delighted, obviously, because it would have been a bit of a letdown if I had gone on the diet and nothing had happened. So I think they were delighted that things started to go downhill pretty fast.
If you're just tuning in, this is Radio National Drive, and you can hear there Dr. Michael Mosley, who's fronting up this new SBS TV series, Australia's Health Revolution. Also, Gomeroi man Ray Kelly, who is teaming up with them to look at how this impacts particularly Indigenous Australians. So, Michael, in this program, you take 8 volunteers who have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. What are some of the health problems that these Aussies are facing from the disease?
Oh, a whole huge range of them. So there's Robert, who's a truck driver and is significantly overweight, but his problem is that his eyesight is going. And he's had his eyesight treated, but unless he does something about it, he's going to get blind. He has been on insulin for a long time. And then there is Kerry, who Ray did a lot of work with to improve her mobility, but again, significantly overweight, very sort of chair-bound, unable to get around. We have Lynn up in Roban in the Northwest Territories, and she's on multiple medications, and she's seen huge numbers of her relatives get type 2 diabetes, die from type 2 diabetes. So a whole gamut of things. And we also have a couple of people who have yet to become diabetic. They're pre-diabetic, but they're well on the road. So we know that this is a very nasty, aggressive disease. And unless you do something about it, even if you're on medication, the chances are that, it's going to lead to heart disease, dementia, and things like that.
Ray, you put them through a drastic lifestyle change to try and reverse the effects of the disease. How much resistance was there? And talk me through the results.
Yeah, well, some might say drastic. I think it's just going back to normal eating, to be honest. But yeah, it's drastic when you're used to other things. So yeah, look, to be honest, and this is what I find everywhere, that people don't like this disease. So when you come in and say, look, there's potential, we can turn it around. We don't make any promises. It's just like, look, we can improve the condition. Maybe it might change your medications, and let's see where we go. And people are keen. They want help. They know where it's going to take them. And so the resistance isn't that great. Obviously, you've got your highs and low points of the day. You're like sitting back late at night watching a bit of TV or listening to the radio, and you sort of might be bored and you feel like snacking or that emotional eating side of things. But once you teach people how to get around that, they usually find their groove within a couple of weeks. And
the results? What kind of results did you see?
Oh, look, we can't let too much out of the bag, but let me tell you, it will get every workplace discussing it. It's stuff that we see, in practice, but it's great to see it on TV, and people are going to go through with these people. And I think we've got some really great participants there that everyone will find a connection with someone. Yeah, there are all different shapes and sizes and different cultural backgrounds as well. And yeah, it's some really great people.
Michael, what's the medical evidence that it is possible to reverse a diabetes diagnosis?
Oh, it's very strong now. A lot of it's based on work by Professor Roy Taylor, who also features in the programme. And he's been working on this for some time now. I mean, I'm delighted to say that Diabetes Australia have just issued a position statement about diabetes remission, saying that, yes, that it is possible that if you lose weight, in a proportion of people, they'll be able to come off their medication. So this is a big, big thing. Because historically, the view has been that type 2 diabetes is a progressive, irreversible disease. So the fact that Diabetes Australia have come out and said this is big news, and it's also very good news because the evidence, as I was saying, has been mounting and mounting, and there have been several big trials in the UK, also in the Middle East. And I know that in Australia, and Ray will know more about this, there are also these rapid weight loss trials based on the British studies, and they will have results from that fairly soon. But the evidence is moving very strongly in that direction.
Ray, type 2 diabetes disproportionately affects Indigenous Australians. Why is this?
Oh, look, it comes back to the ongoing effects of colonisation, issues around access to healthcare, but also genetically, Aboriginal people are more predisposed because they carry body weight around their organs, so around their liver and pancreas, at a lower BMI, so at a lot of lower body weight. A lot of people like to think, oh no, it's just ancient genes, but that's just lazy research. It's actually it's similar for people from the Asian community. So like you put on a bit of weight, it goes around the stomach rather than around underneath the skin so much, and spread out throughout the body. And so you're going to get type 2 diabetes at a lower body weight. And so put that together with all the other issues we've got going on, then it just increases the rate substantially. But the good news is Aboriginal people respond really well, and that's what we've been showing through our programs throughout regional and remote New South Wales.
Dr. Michael Mosley, what's needed to tackle the problem both in the general population as well as, I suppose, some of these communities like the Indigenous community?
I think one of the great things is that SBS are actually airing this series, they're promoting this series, and that's going to get the information out there, not just to patients, but also to doctors, because an awful lot of doctors don't know this is possible. And so that's a first step. We also, Ray and I, go and confront the politicians, which is another necessary step. We don't exactly confront them. We set up a tent up there in Canberra, and we invite politicians in to be tested. Because we think it's more revealing if we show them just, how dodgy some of their health is. And they were very brave. They came along, and a number of them did turn out. We measured their blood pressure, their blood sugars, and also looked at their livers. And I think some of them left a bit shaken. But I think that's another thing that needs to happen. We need to, when I say we, I mean Australian politicians need to find a way to tax unhealthy foods and subsidise healthy foods. So particularly in the remote communities, people need access to healthier options. At the moment, the cheap options are the ones that are likely to lead to type 2 diabetes and ill health. It's going to be like smoking. I suspect it's going to be quite a long old fight. But we know the things that work with smoking. There were basically taxation and also bans on advertising. So I suspect that's where it's going to go, but it's going to take quite a long time.
Thank you to both of you. It's really interesting work you've been putting together. Can't wait to watch it.
Thanks.
Dr.
Thank you.
Michael Mosley and Ray Kelly are trying to start a health revolution with this new series, which premieres on SBS tonight at 7:30. This is RN Drive.